And now it's time to revisit one of the major topics of today's service, the announcement of the Arctic Sentry and what it will entail. It is my pleasure to welcome on the program Martin Sklenár, former Slovakian Defense Minister and security expert. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's begin with the Arctic Sentry, the Allied Command Operations, which I will later refer to as the ACO, which is responsible for the planning and execution of all the NATO, be it exercises, activities and operations, began the Arctic Sentry today. These exercises, how dire was the need to conduct them now?
Obviously, it was very high, the need for making sure that NATO has a coherent strategy and action in the Arctic. This is what the Arctic Sentry is about. We have heard critics that NATO is just repackaging things that it would do anyway, just to make sure that the relationship between Europe and the Trump administration is mitigated, and there are no further fallouts. But what this means actually is organizing NATO's possibilities and action into one coherent operation, so to say, the Sentry type of operation that NATO has launched both on the eastern flank and in the Baltic Sea, just representing the attention and the focus that now NATO as an organization, and with that all the countries that are members of NATO, focus on Arctic, on Greenland, and on the wider High North territory, which is critical for collective defense, especially for European, but also for American, for the United States. That area of the world is very important for making sure that the U.S. is secure against the threats coming from Russia and the provocations from China.
Over the past few weeks and months, we've seen a lot of tensions between the United States and Europe when it comes to Greenland, the very question of Greenland. The Arctic Sentry, do you think that this is what was discussed and agreed between Donald Trump and Mark Rutte in Davos? Is this a response, or perhaps this sentry was actually in the cards before that conversation took place?
That is difficult to say, frankly, and maybe might also be, a question of what came first. But in the end, the important thing is that it's happening now, and NATO declares that this is a properly focused area, or the operations that NATO conducts are now properly focused not only on the eastern flank and the Baltic Sea and the Mediterranean, but also on the Arctic. Which is fully in line with what NATO can do, and probably is what Mark Rutte discussed with President Trump in Davos. Whether it was in the initialization phase at that point, or whether it was already planned, I wouldn't read too much into that. The important thing is that they discussed it before, they found an agreement on it, and now NATO is starting to deliver. And the thing that it needs to be said is the current scale of operations is not the final stage of the Arctic Sentry, right? There will be more exercises, there will be more attention, there will be more planning done to make sure that NATO is able to react to anything that might happen in that part of the world.
So how much do you think the Arctic Sentry is actually changing the NATO strategy when it comes to the far north?
As I said, I mean, the importance of the region for allied security and collective defense has been recognized for a long time. What the Sentry brings right now is dedicated attention, and it becomes one of the tasks of the command post in Norfolk, very officially. Which will mean that the resources will be formally dedicated to this kind of world, to this area, to this domain, to the Arctic, and well, in terms of that, there certainly will be a push, a pressure to do as much as possible with the resources that are available to the NATO staff. Coming from national armies to be present in the Arctic, to show force, to show the commitment, and to showcase the capabilities that are ready and available should there be a need in the Arctic.
There's definitely a lot of things and a lot of conversations being had around the Arctic Sentry. Do you think that the Sentry, the NATO ministerial, which is set to take place, do you think that these steps is actually what is going to stop Russia and China and is going to deter them from actually expanding their sphere of influence in the Arctic?
Well, that's certainly something that we have to see what will be the reaction. But first of all, the Arctic Sentry, the attention that NATO is paying to the Arctic comes from already the provocative actions and some of the increased presence that Russia and China are presenting in the Arctic. So in a sense, it's a reaction already. That's what NATO does. It's a defensive alliance. It reacts to possible threats. That's what it does also in the Arctic. Very frankly, if Russia reacts to this in any way, I think that's something that I would actually like to see, because then it means that NATO is doing good in terms of making sure that not only Arctic is well protected and defended, but also that the situation that had a potential to bring a split into the transatlantic alliance has been mitigated, and Russia and China will not like it, and they will try to push against that effort that NATO has just started to do.
I would like us to change a point of focus for a moment. For the first time in history, a 4-star Polish general is set to command the NATO Allied Joint Force Command in Brunssum, Netherlands, breaking what is a 2-decade-long tenure by German and Italian officers. What does this change signal, especially for the eastern flank of NATO?
It signals the rising importance of Poland quite clearly in the NATO planning, in NATO capability development, and the role that the Polish armed forces are playing in the system of the collective defense, and also represents a little bit the shift that is going on in the attention from mostly Western Europe centered organization, and especially the military command, to bringing in more Eastern European voices, representatives, and brains, and officers to lead this important post. It's certainly something that not only the U.S. but also Western allies have called for a longer time. So I would see this as a very positive development, and something that can bring in the Eastern European perspective directly into operational level of the NATO command structure.
Just before we go, a quick question. You oversee a project which is meant to focus on battle readiness for Central and Eastern Europe. Do you think that these countries that are involved in case of an open attack would have what it takes to be able to defend themselves?
What we're trying to see is measure exactly that. What is the transformation of the inputs of the increased defense spending and the commitments that we see into the readiness, into the real readiness. And what we see is that there is a rising trend in capabilities, in military capabilities, like in air and missile defense, or the new projects of countering drones. What we would like to see more also is the interconnectedness between the countries on the eastern frontier or the eastern flank of NATO, be it in the spirit of integrated air and missile defense, or making sure that the military mobility is brought to a new level of interconnectedness, not only with new roads and bridges, but also permits and border crossings that need to be minimized to a minimum time, just to make sure that the readiness is actually there, that the military can act if it's needed.
Minister, thank you so much for joining me on the program. Martin Sklenár, former Slovakian Defense Minister and security expert, was my guest on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so this would be all for now here on World News Tonight. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World for more.